Hey everybody, welcome to The Other Side of Addiction. I'm your host, Al Richards, and we've got a regular that's starting to show up, JD, who's come in to co-host again. JD, thank you again for your time. Appreciate it.
No problem. Again, anytime I could be here, and with that said, it sounds like I'll be here on the show a lot more.
Yeah, and I am sad to say that my normal co-host, Lori Warburton, she has bowed out, and she is going after her dreams. It has nothing to do with what's been going on here, because I tell you what, I probably wouldn't have been able to start this if it wasn't for Lori joining me. So she's been a great partner of mine. She's been phenomenal. She's even helped me have a lot of more belief in myself as well. So Lori, thank you. She is definitely going to be missed, but we are here to support Lori 100% in her going after her dreams. And her dreams is to go out there and help people in other ways as well. So I'm still very blessed to have her as a friend, and blessed to have her, you know, as my co-host as things went, so as things started. But hey, we are here with a special guest and a good friend of mine, Nicole. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us today.
I'm so grateful to be here.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better way to spend a Thursday afternoon.
I know, isn't it
with
awesome?
You two gentlemen. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. And she was so sweet. You guys can barely see on the camera, but she brought this beautiful plant for us, and it's just phenomenal. I mean, yeah, I can get emotional if I keep talking because of just the guests that we have been having on this show. It's just not their stories, but it's who they are as a human being. And I mean, I don't think we've had one bad person on this show, and just who they are. And Nicole and I, we kind of keep track of this, the giants and things like that, which you guys heard me share on one of our episodes. I talked about the book, The Giant and the Smalls. But phenomenal people that have gone through so much and have been able to basically come out on top, grow to be giants. So to let you guys know a little bit more about Nicole, she is a certified health and life empowerment coach, 10 years experience coaching clients to their highest health and wellness potential, which I love that. Nicole uses her experience for battling eating disorders, trauma, and abuse to support her clients in healing, reframing their past, and stepping into the highest versions of themselves. Nicole is the CEO of Purple Door Coaching, and I'm going to have to ask you as we get going, what made you come up with that name? Because she's even got some purple in her hair, so she's marketing herself. And a founding member of the League of Giants, which we just shortly spoke about here a little bit, whose global mission is to impact 100 million lives. And I'll tell you what, they're rolling. I mean, they are rolling. So they're going to hit 100 million lives here probably in a very, very short time. She currently co-hosts the Wake Up with Giants show at KAT Country Radio. And Nicole lives in Harriman, Utah, with her husband, 3 of their 4 children, and her 4 fur babies, which I'm assuming are the animals.
Yes.
And she loves to lift weights, which I definitely know that, and have coffee on the porch with her Frenchie, and go to the shooting range, which we were just talking about before the show started, and being a mom to every child that comes through her door. And I can see that from you, Nicole. I mean, from the first time that I met you, and I met at an Herbalife convention, right? Out by the airport. I think that was the first time that we met, and we only talked just for a little bit, but it seemed like we kind of knew each other. That's how I felt anyway.
Soul family.
I've known you for years. So you've had a lot of stuff happen in your life. I mean, that's why I also look up to you as a giant, because of things that you've gone through in your life. I mean, you were in a relationship that battled with addiction, right? And I mean, you've gone through some trauma. So if you don't mind sharing, I mean, share a little bit more about what you've gone through, and let's let our audience know that no matter what happens in your life, in your past, there's better if you just keep fighting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and for me, it started at a very young age. I started making really bad choices when it came to men. So the addict that I had kids with, I stayed with him for 8 years, but I started choosing addicts at 15, 16 years old.
Wow.
So yeah, I think it comes from my upbringing. I came from a very strict Irish Catholic family, and my parents got divorced. And once they got divorced, like, it was no more public school. I was going to private school, but also watching my parents and how they coped with the divorce, and the things that they battled. And so I took on the role of being the oldest, and so I was, responsible for my brother. We're about 13 months apart, and I say responsible for them, but he's always been his own person and done his own thing and just been very strong in, like, his masculine. He had a baby at a very young age at 16, and he's just been really, like, grown up. And then I had a 7-year-old sister, or we're 7 years apart. I have a sister who's 8 years younger than me, and she became like my child. But I noticed that I tried to take on what my parents were battling with my behavior, with how I behaved. I didn't want to laugh too loud. I didn't want to do anything that would set the bomb off of a parent who would get upset and enraged. So I started to try to be perfect with how I thought my parents, wanted me to act, and not really knowing who I was or what I wanted, because how they felt was more important. And then finding validation and attention from men. My dad left my mom for someone who was 9 years younger than him, skinny, blonde hair, absolutely gorgeous woman. And watching my mom and what she battled through with having 3 kids and her body type being different, and just kind of the it had nothing to do with looks, but at that age I kind of took it on as, that it had to do with looks and not personalities. And I got into eating disorder, trying to look perfect, trying to be perfect, and then trying to find people to change, people to heal, people to, I think that's where the codependency started, is that I did not want to look at myself. I did not want to look at my imperfections, things that I had going on, my pain, my wounds. I wanted to fix everyone else but myself. So I would always find the person that was the sickest puppy, and I was going to love that puppy to the point that they just had this, amazing life. And I started to pull out of it after high school, and I started to choose people that were good for me, because the addict, I was like married all through high school, not really, but I mean, that guy was going places. Like, he could have gone to any college football team and played. His grades weren't good enough, but I was the girl that the coaches were like, we usually tell guys never to have a girlfriend during football, but he's never showed up sober until you guys started dating, so whatever you're doing, Yeah. And so it's like, I'm like, okay, here I am, like, this is paying off, this is working. And then I didn't go to school. I stayed home from school, from college. I got offered to go play soccer in Colorado, Southern Colorado University, I think, at that time. And I was like, no, I'm going to be marrying this guy, and he is going to play football, and, like, we're going to have this great life. Like, he ended up moving to Dixie. I would drive hours to see him, and he got really heavy into his addiction. Really heavy, with some really sketchy people.
Wow.
And so I got out of it. I saved myself. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I'm choosing something different. And then I started choosing people that were good for me. And then I got myself into a situation with a man, and some things transpired, and it completely broke me. So this person that I have this baby, my first son with, like, I had gotten to the point where I was starting to get healthy and get out of, these bad behaviors, choosing these men, choosing people who are good for me. And once that happened, it was like, hey, I don't want to see what happened to me. So I'm going to go back, and I can change and fix this person. Like, I found the sickest person that I could find, and then I got pregnant. And, he's in and out of jail. And he's in and out. Like, I used tuition money for school to bail him out of jail. I'm pregnant with my son. And my son was the best thing that ever happened to me. Like, he just completely saved my life.
And it was just because of the love and the feeling that you had with, and that attachment, which kind of pulled you away from getting sucked into the other one. Is that what did it?
Yeah. Well, and it's just like, I started choosing healthy things for myself. Some stuff happened, and then I just like didn't want to face it. I didn't want to own it. So I went back to this person that I knew was really bad for me. And my son helped me get my shit together. Like, he helped me to love someone more. But I honestly thought that having him was going to pull this guy out of his addiction.
Yeah.
So he ended up being out of jail by some miracle and sober when our son was born. Like, in that moment, sober. And so I was like, this is it. Like, he's going to, pull it out. Like, this child is so precious. And no, that didn't happen. And so it's really crazy being as codependent as I was on this person, because my family, like, he stole from almost everyone in my family. His thing was pain pills, alcohol. And so he stole from everyone, including my sister. I have a sister who's 20 years younger than me. She was an infant at the time. He stole from her. So my family, like, I found out he, like, had stolen my little sister's codeine for her cough. And they, like, got me out of that situation. But I was so not strong enough to stop myself from going back. And so I went back and I got pregnant with my daughter. And then I was like, okay, he didn't get sober with the son, he's going to get sober with the daughter. Yeah,
because usually the father-daughter thing is what really, brings things together.
Yeah, well, he was so high during her labor, the doctor would not let him cut the umbilical cord. He had been out partying, and when I went in labor, I had called his mom. He lived about an hour away, and he was just getting home. And so he showed up, and the nurse was trying to find him because he was at the pharmacy trying to get drugs. He was trying to get drugs when I was giving birth to my son. They said, we've never had anyone ever be more concerned about themselves than their child or their woman that's giving birth. Yeah. So I got social workers sent to my room. With my daughter, the doctor wouldn't let him cut the cord, and then social workers got sent to my room because he was at the pharmacy seeking for pills. So I had social workers coming to talk to me. I still believed, like, nope, I have a daughter now. He's gonna change for her. And all this time ignoring the pain inside of myself. All of this time believing that I deserved everything that I was getting. Like, I didn't think I was worthy to eat food in my own house. I didn't think that I was worthy of anything. Like, I don't know how I even had my children. I didn't feel worthy of them. And so when people would come and try to save me and get me out of the relationship or out, I would go back every time because I didn't think I could do any better than and I was getting everything that I deserved. He had gone to drug rehab many times, in and out of mental institutions, psychiatric wards, and I really thought that eventually things were going to get better after 8 years. The abuse was terrible. The things that addicts will do to, it's like hitting himself with a hammer, and saying that he fell at work, telling people at work he had cancer, just crazy things that you would never believe in real life. And that's the whole thing, is like, he was so good at lying and manipulating that I believed and held on to that little bit of hope. But I think what finally got me to leave was I started going to school for nursing. And so I was getting out of the house because I was isolated. He had wrecked my car. 2 of the cars that I had, one he totaled. We had one cell phone. I had drug dealers knocking on my door looking for money from him while he's out doing whatever. He just stopped coming home, moved in with a woman who's like 7 years older than him. I was 24 when I had my daughter. He left me for like a 32-year-old that he worked with. He would always work with tips. So he could come home and say I only made $25 with tips, you know? So then I had $25 a week to figure out how to feed myself, my child, and then I'm a nursing new mother, you know?
Yeah.
And I took a year when I started going to school. I was able to get out. I learned about body image and nutrition, and oh my gosh, I have an eating disorder. And my eating disorder was out of control when I was with him. It's like I thought that if I could just be perfect and skinny enough and pretty enough or whatever, that he would be happy. If I kept the house clean enough, you know. He had also addiction to porn, so that played into insecurities with me and my body. And I took a year to get out. I was like, this is the day. Like, it wasn't anything that he did. It wasn't anything that he said. It wasn't any of the abuse. Like, I put up with it. But one day, after a year of working hard on myself, I was like, I just want to be happy. And he's like, what did I do? You know? And I'm like, it's nothing that you did. Like, you're not broken. Like, there's nothing to fix. You are perfect the way that you are. Like, everything that you've gone through, I so wanted to be his higher power. I wanted to be him at the AA, because I'd go to AA meetings with him. Who does this? Who goes to AA meetings with their loved one?
I do.
Yeah. But he can't authentically share.
Right.
When I go there, and I'm there to make sure he's not lying, and he's not telling, you know, that he's telling the truth. Like, are you telling the truth? Are you lying? Are you telling stories? Why am I going? He can't share authentically. He can't work on himself if I'm standing over him trying to dictate, you know? And I was just like, he's perfect. He doesn't need to be fixed. His journey, it's not going to be him at an AA meeting standing up and saying, the mother of my children, I just love her so much, and her love got me through this, and her love changed me. Yeah. It was like I was robbing him of that story of, like, I rescued myself. I was in the depths of hell, and I pulled myself out. It's like, as soon as I realized he didn't need to be fixed, I wasn't here to save him. I'm not his higher power. I was able to move on.
You know, and you did it fairly quickly, because I tried it for 7 years, doing the exact same stuff that you was trying to do. And one thing that always amazes me through all this, and I know JD can vouch for this too, but why is it that us as human beings work our butts off to help? And my wife don't like the word fix, because she's like, we're not broken.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes.
But why do we give everything, all our power to another human being that we care about to try to help them, when all we're doing is destroying ourselves? I mean, God wants us to help other people. We're here to help. I mean, we're here to, you know, help others get through their trials. But if we can't help ourselves, how are we going to help that individual? And then one day it just hits you, right? It's like, I need to fix this inside me.
Yeah, and it's like, it was my excuse. It was my excuse to play small. It was my excuse not to be a giant. Anytime anyone asked me, Nicole, how are you? Oh, well, he blah, 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 blah. It was about him. If anybody asked me anything about me, I had nothing to say, because it was my excuse to play small. Well, when I fix him, then I can be a giant. Yeah. No.
It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. And how am I contributing to his addiction? How does it feel to be home with me or around me? Like, it's just, I was just as toxic for him, just as toxic. And it was like, when I finally left, he stopped paying child support. I lost my job, my apartment, and my kids in one day. So my lease was up on my apartment. I lost my job, and then my kids, I sent them for the summer to go stay with their grandma and grandpa. And I know for sure it was him, like, oh, you're going to come back this time. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's where I was like, no, I'll sleep in my car if I have to. But the universe was like, are you serious this time? Like, because my fear before was losing my place to live, losing my kids, losing my income. And here I am with nothing. And it was like, no, Nicole, you are powerful. Like, you've worked hard enough. You believe in yourself. You don't, like, I got to the point, 8 years, I stayed for 8 years. I was like, I've suffered enough. I've suffered enough. Who in their right mind thinks like, oh, I can have good things for myself if I suffer for 8 years?
Yeah.
Like, now I deserve it. Hell no, you deserve that now. You deserve everything that you want now. I really think that me being where I was an excuse to stay small. And once I gave up my excuse and freed him from my craziness and freed me from having my self-worth attached to another person, everything just aligned for me. The universe just, it lined up perfect.
It's amazing how that happens when you change that mindset, because the same thing happened to me, and I believe even with JD's story, it's the same thing, right? I mean, once you start changing that mindset,
Oh yeah.
that, I mean, it's funny because we know we deserve better, but yet we really don't do anything about it because of fear, or because we, like you said, we don't think we deserve it, even though we know we do.
Well,
But
I think even at that though, it's like thinking like, hey, you know you deserve this, but you want to deserve it with that person, right? And so
Right.
again, trying to fix people, you know, it doesn't work out. And this is, I was going to ask this in there, while you were in that relationship for 8 years, and again, I'm sure you felt the same way as I have, and you know, still have ups and downs, right? We do.
yeah,
But do you feel like you were an enabler in that relationship?
Hell yeah, I was.
So if
was.
certain things where it would have maybe pushed him to be better or do better, but because he had, essentially it feels like I feel like at times I'm just a crutch, right? So, but it just makes it easier. Like I'm like, hey, whatever you need to get this done, whatever you need to get this fixed, or whatever I can do, it's like, you know, but then they find that gap, like take an inch, or give an inch, take a mile kind of thing, but you're the one that enabled it essentially.
Yeah. Well, and then when I would step up and put my foot down. You know, there was one night he was gonna have to stay in the homeless shelter, and his family, like, I was like, we all need, like, this needs to happen. This is where he's headed. He needs to go to the homeless shelter, even if it's just for one night. And his sister was like, nope, not my family. So it's like, when I didn't enable, the family enabled, his family enabled, you know. But I'm 100% guilty of enabling. And that's why I'm saying I was not good for him at all. I just wasn't. Even now, like, we have 2 kids together, so even after I left the relationship, there's still things that you're dealing with an addict when he's the father of your children. And so I was enabling things then. Like, I invited him back into my home knowing what he had done, and, you know, having him steal from family. He was dating my husband's sister for a while, and I would have him over for, like, Father's Day brunch, like, knowing that he was, like, knowing who he was, you know what I mean? Like, I think we expect a thief not to be a thief, or a liar not to be a liar, and that's just...
Well, it's human nature, I think, you know, in that we just want to see the good in people. We really do. Every person we run into, we want to see the good, you know, and it goes with the, you know, I've got friends that work down at the jail, and, you know, same thing, they'll say, you know, there's a lot of people that go into jail, most of them, they're good people, they're smart people, they just made dumb choices, you know, and that's how they put it, you know, and again, you know, a battle with drugs or alcohol or whatever it may be, you know, it is a uphill battle. And again, the guests we've talked to and stuff, you know, everybody handles it differently.
Yeah.
Not one person handles it the same. And I have a hard time when people are like, hey, I know exactly what you're going through. It's like, no, you're not in my mind. No, you don't,
No.
you know. You haven't been through it step through step in my emotions in those steps, you know. And so.
well, it's like us who are on the other side of the addiction, you know, because I used to say that to my wife all the time. It's like, well, I thought I understood what she was going through, and she even told me once, she goes, there is no way in hell you understand any of it. And I thought I did. I mean, I've shared on the show many times before. At one time she told me, for once, I wish you'd stop being my therapist and be my husband. You know, and did I still get it? No, hell no. The light bulb still didn't go on. It still took a long time after that, because we think we know and we don't. But you hit the nail on the head, Nicole, when you said you finally realized, it's nothing I can do, but I've got to take care of this inside. Because once you do that, it's like the universe does shift. All of a sudden you start seeing things start happening differently in your life. Because when I made that choice of finally taking care of me, I think I even said it on the last show, my wife, after I let her back in, 2 weeks after she was under my roof or so, and she was starting to get her speech back and everything, she's like, "You've changed." I was like, "Nah, I haven't changed." She goes, "No, you have. It's like you're getting on with your life." She was right.
Yeah.
And once I started doing that, it's almost like that energy shifted over to her, and she kind of started changing her life, like she was getting on without the addiction, so.
Yeah. I think that a lot of we avoid things when they're painful, and then we don't want to do the work, and that is where, like, the lessons and the pain becomes important. What you learn becomes important, but humans, the majority, will avoid things when they're painful. I don't know. It was like once I was able to reframe my stories, the stories that I had, and reframe those, that also gave me a lot of power in being able to move forward in my life. Because, you have this story, you get to choose your stories. And I didn't realize that. And I don't know, have you done Landmark Forum? Did you ever do Landmark Forum? Okay.
I have not.
That's one of those things that Herbalife leaders pushed. Was to do the Landmark Forum, but it's one of those things that I learned in that is that you get to choose your stories. And so the stories that I was choosing were stories where I was disempowered, and you can take that same story, that same thing that happened, and switch it around and make it into whatever you want.
Yeah,
an empowering story.
And see, and I don't think the majority of us know that and understand it, because I grew up with an extremely bad temper, a really bad temper. I mean, I was at the emergency center all the time thinking I broke my hand, or they were pulling slivers or glass out of my hands all the time, because I was always punching stuff and kicking stuff and throwing stuff. One day I hurt somebody that I was in a relationship with, and when they're laying on the ground, I'm going, what the hell am I doing? I don't want to be this type of person. I mean, especially against a woman, and so I went to therapy for 6 months to learn how to control my temper. And I remember, I don't know how long I was in therapy, but I remember my therapist one day, we're sitting down, and she had this piece of paper, and I was in front of her, and she starts talking about stuff, and she's working me up, and she's doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
Pretty soon my leg's bouncing, I can feel my fist clenching, my jaw tightening, and she's like, "Well, how do you feel right now?" I'm like, "What the hell do you mean you feel? You're pissing me off. I've had enough of this. Why are you doing this? You're supposed to be helping me." She flipped over that piece of paper, had this circle, and had a black side and a white side, and it had these paths. And she goes, "Do you feel light or dark?" And I'm pounding on the paper where it's dark, and she goes, "So why didn't you choose this side?" I have a choice?
Yeah.
And she goes, "Yeah, why didn't you choose this? Why would you choose here where you're angry and you want to hurt something or throw something or hit something when you could go this way?" I didn't know I had a choice, because all my life, even growing up, that's how I saw my parents react. Something didn't go right, you threw a fit, and you threw a damn good one. You made sure everybody knew you were throwing a fit.
Yeah.
I thought that's how life was supposed to go. But as we get older and we go through the things like what we've gone through, you start waking up a little bit. But sometimes it takes just that one little person or a class that finally opens your eyes and goes, you choose your life, right? Because there are a lot of women who are stuck in very bad relationships, who have gone through like what you've gone through, who think it's their fault. My wife was one of them, went through a lot of bad relationships. I mean, that was part of her alcoholism. She basically thought she was a worthless piece of crap, and she tried sabotaging our relationship for years, because she's like, he's going to leave me anyway, so might as well help push him out the door, you know.
Wouldn't it be just easier to be like, hey, look, this just ain't working out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You would think.
Yeah.
You would think. But us as human beings, I maybe not all of us, but I think the majority of us do that, right? I mean,
Well,
we belittle ourselves.
And going to that too, I think this falls into the fact of on the other side of addiction. This comes into everybody's got an addiction of some sort,
Oh, yeah.
no matter what it is. And again, like we've talked about the addictions, and you had an addiction to your husband's addiction, right? Trying to fix it. Al, same thing with your
Same
wife,
way
same
with
thing
me.
with me,
Yeah.
right? And it just goes into, I think it's not only the fact of us getting to a point of realizing like, hey, we deserve better, right? But we want to have better with that person. But also too, it comes to the point like, so I bet a lot of people, and this goes both with both men and women that are in not so good relationships, you know, in this environment. But it's also too the fear of, even there might be those small moments that they feel that love that they first had with that person, and they spark in between, you know, it gets fewer and fewer in between.
Yeah.
But they long for that. It's like that drug, that addiction, you know. And I've gone through that with my wife, where like in the beginning and stuff, you know, it's that fairy tale. Like you're just happy, the butterflies, you're so excited to see each other.
Yeah, the
you know?
Disney movie.
Yeah, exactly, you know. And I think, you know, I mean, for me personally, like I hold on to that. Like I want that fairy tale relationship, that ending, that power couple, you know. And so when we've gone through our ups and downs and stuff, and then I'm like, I've gotten to, you know, where I'm like, screw it, this is it, I can't do this anymore, you know. Then I'll see that glimpse of that fairy tale, I'm like, okay, yeah, we can take this, we can, you know.
Yeah, we can do it.
I think that's the trouble with a lot of people though, is that they have that moment, they have those moments because, you know, everybody, they started out with falling in love somewhere, right?
Yeah, of course.
You don't just go in and be like, hey, this might be out of context, so if it needs to be deleted, but you know, hey, you love drugs and alcohol, I think this is gonna work out great.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They
yeah.
don't go into it that way. Things come out, right? And it's because people don't have that out on their shoulders too. They hide. You don't really truly know who you're dealing with until you've been with them in that relationship for a while, right? So, but it could be that addiction. They were ashamed to show you that in the beginning, but then it just beat them. You know what I mean? So it did come out. That's when you find that stuff out. And so, but going back to certain things on what you were saying too, I wanted to wrap this back, but you were talking about you lost your apartment, lost your job, sent your kids out to their grandparents, willing to live out of your car, and it reminded me something of taking back your power, right? And so I'm just going to share, because I've been doing this study with a thing called Your Wish is Your Command, and obviously I'm very big into the law of attraction. Like I believe in that stuff. Anyways, the guy's name, if you ever want to watch it, his name's Kevin Tradua, but he talks about the Freemasons, Illuminati and stuff. He got out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he talks about something that you went through, and in order to be successful, we all have what's called this teachability index, and whether it being successful of getting away from drugs, being successful about getting, you know, success in life, your relationship, all that stuff, we have what's called a teachability index. And so just taking some notes, but what is your willingness to learn? How high is your willingness to learn this information? Like, are you willing, you know, what was your willingness to learn of how to get out, to make yourself better? You had to make that shift, right? The second thing is, what were you willing to do? You were willing to lose everything, right? You were willing to sacrifice everything. And what were you willing to give up? Pretty much everything. I mean, even if it meant giving up your car, you probably would have at that
Well, in a
point.
way, she kind of gave up her kids by sending them to their grandparents,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
I mean, not giving them up totally, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So it says, you know, and the last one is, are you truly committed? Well, you definitely were committed at that point. And it says, what's your teachability index? It's a scale 1 through 10. And I'm never a 10 because I'm like, I can't give up my kids. Like that's never going to happen.
Right.
So I'll always remain around an 8 or a 9. You know, and not, if I was pushed to the edge, obviously I would send them somewhere that was best for them. Like, I'm getting ready to leave my whole family to go to California to work for 4 months. And so, like, that's a hard sacrifice on that end. But I'm bringing, like, to move to that next level like you did, you had to realize all that stuff without being taught it.
Yeah, it was like Dr. Wayne Dyer. Like, I was super poor, so I'd watch Dr. Wayne Dyer on PBS. Like, I literally had nothing. Some of these times that I tried to get out, the last time that I finally did, like, I was working from home, watching kids during the day, and then at night I was answering phones. When I lost my apartment, I couldn't watch kids in the apartment, and then I lost my job. But I had my kids back. Like, my husband now, if that would not have happened to me, I would have never seen him as more than just a friend. He was like, come stay with me. He took such good care of me, and we sabotage, right? We
Yes.
sabotage things because we are afraid of the unknown. And I knew what it was like to be in the depths of hell and have nothing. And I did not know what it was like to be with someone who loved me, treated me with respect, who I literally would be like crying. Like, my husband didn't see me before I had kids. I have stretch marks. I nursed babies, so my breasts were completely destroyed. And here I am, like, I'm going to let this man see me. Like,
Yeah.
the last guy wouldn't touch me unless I had my shirt on. And here I am, like, I was scared to death. And the way that he took care of me, I was like, I would call one of my good friends and just cry and be like, I don't know what to do. Like, he's so good to me. And he was like, what do you mean? You deserve it. Like, you deserve this.
But you didn't think you did.
No, but I still stayed. But I tried sabotaging so many times because I was so afraid of the unknown of what it meant to be in a relationship with someone who actually loved me and cared about me and took care of my kids financially. Like, my husband now, it's like there's things that maybe he does now that hit me differently because of the situation that I was in before. So I have to realize of like, hey, this happened and I'm having a meltdown, and he's kind of like, why are you freaking out so bad about this? Because the things in the past relationship, like if I find out that he wasn't where he said that he was, it's because a whole bunch of other stuff happened, you know? And so I'd have to be like, this is not anything that you did. This is triggering stuff from the trauma that I endured with the last person. Sabotage is very, very real. And usually it's because you're afraid, because you realize you can change. You realize you are powerful. You realize that you have greatness inside of you. Mm-hmm. And you are so afraid that you are going to sabotage your marriage with Al Richards. You know what I mean? Like, my husband's phenomenal, and he's done the same thing from his relationships. He was with an addict before he was with me. And so I think that's also helped him understand where he can be like, he's so calm. And I'm so used to the ticking time bomb, you know? I'm just like, why are you not freaking out right now? Like,
yeah, here it comes, right?
Yeah.
Here it comes.
Like, I'm waiting, and he's just like, so he was a Cav Scout in the Army. So he's just very calm, very like calculated. Like, he could be having a panic or anxiety attack. You would never know. And I'm just like used to tiptoeing on eggshells and being like, it's going to explode at any minute, right?
No,
It's a landmine.
That's how it is. I was telling, we talked about it in the show a couple of weeks ago, but I'm that same way. Like, I feel like I'm a pretty level-headed person, you know? Mm-hmm. But, like, once the fuse gets lit, like, that's it. You know, and I don't know if your husband's the same way. Like, it takes a lot to get the fuse lit, but once it's lit, like, just get out of the way. You know what I mean? Or don't mess with the grenade pin, you know? It's like, hey, I'm going to just tease it and swirl it around, see what happens. But no, that's talking about sabotaging. And I'm not here, again, I love my wife. I love my kids. You know, me and her, we've got things we're working on. And I always pray for the best because you don't ever want to fail those marriages, right? But I have been in those relationships in between where, you know, I'll speak freely of this, that they would have been a phenomenal relationship long term, you know, would have been a marriage that probably would have lasted forever. But it was that same sense, like, almost like I went into a relationship, I'm like, I don't got nothing here to fix. Like, you're good, see you later. You know, like, you know, when in return it should have been like,
thank you.
It should have been like, you know, like, you got it. This is it. You can go further now. Yeah. Instead of like, you start looking for the problems of where can I help you, you know? It's like, you're not used to that. You know what I mean? Or
they start helping you and you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Like, you're helping me? Like, I dated a guy, I probably found the only Muslim guy that goes to BYU, but he would take me to the library and we would study on our dates. Like, I had phenomenal men that were like, he was amazing. Yeah. But I was so much like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Like, I don't deserve him. He deserves somebody so much better than me. He's trying to help me be better, like, you know, showing me the biology, like helping me with biology. His parents were doctors, very successful. Like, I want to marry you. I want to drench you in gold. And I was like, do you not know who I am? I am worthless. I'm a piece of shit. Like, what are you want to put gold on me?
On this, yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? Like, you're not a sane person, right? And so it was like, when you realize, like, I am a good person. I am worthy. I am deserving. Instead of like you said, like there's nothing to fix, and then they're trying to make you better, and you're like.
Yeah, well, like I said, I've been in those moments and stuff, like I said, and some of them I'm really good friends with still, and not that we ever play the what if game, because that's a dangerous game to play, but it's like those thoughts, like where they're at, or where it's like, Jesus, when you go through those moments, especially when you're with that significant other that's going through the issues and the problems and stuff, and you're just trying to, you get to a point where you're ready to boil over, and Al, I'm sure you've experienced that. I mean, there's many times I wanted to come home and kick the door through, like...
There was so many times where the therapy I took back in my 20s, I'm really glad I did, because it was when those blinders start closing in and I start getting that tunnel vision, that's when I know that there's something dangerous that's getting ready to happen, and I come so close from... a lot of those times from coming home to what I was coming home to.
Right. Well, almost to a point of like naturally blacking out.
Yeah.
And I've had those moments with my wife. And we got into one point where, it got physical. It did, and I was trying to do everything to stay away and sober up. And cops got called for domestic disturbance, all that stuff.
Yeah.
She came out with a shard of glass, but that was the point. I blacked out for a minute. So I was like, nah, you're going to sober up right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I'm not proud of those moments, but it's like things that get triggered in your relationship. So again, just going back to you, Nicole, and again, everything that we've been through and stuff, trying to be that as people we want to fix, and like you said, like we're here designed to help other people. It's natural instinct as humans is that we should want to help other people. We shouldn't go completely into animals, because that would, there's a saying for it, but we're not meant to be that way.
Yeah.
Right. And Les Brown, famous speaker.
Yeah.
So
very good speaker.
I love his comment. The service we provide, or the service we do here, is the rent we pay to be here on this earth. Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for us to keep that in mind. It's sometimes just in these battles that we pick with our significant others or friends or those that are in our lives, like deserving more.
Yeah.
And so it's important, that you recognize that for yourself, because if not, it's just going to put you down into a spot that you are deserving. God says you deserve to be prosperous in all aspects of life, but we have our free agency, and sometimes we like to pick the rocky roads.
Yeah.
Well, and that's part of our growth.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I had Lyme disease when I left. I didn't know. I went to Boston in March for St. Patrick's Day, and May is when I lost my apartment, my kids, everything. And so I had gotten to this point where I feel worthy and deserving, and then I have a disease now, and I'm feeling broken again. I'm feeling like I'm not fixable, like I'm dying, like I was almost in a wheelchair, and I was just like, how can this man love me? How can this man want to marry me? It's like there's things that keep coming up, like more situations that you can grow through. It's not like you get away from the addict or you stay with the addict and you make it work and then there's not another obstacle. I feel like, especially like as empaths, as healers, like I feel like what you guys are doing is healing families, healing addicts through this podcast here and who you are being as humans in the world. But I feel like as healers, like we are thrown things, huge obstacles to overcome, kind of like a wounded healer of like, now that I've experienced this, I can pass this message or whatever I've learned on to you. Not saying that like I can heal you or fix you, but me sharing my story, you sharing your story with me, and Al sharing his story with me, it provides a space where it's like, okay, I can heal and transform this. I changed that story. I reframed it to, my husband loves me and he wants to marry me even though I have this debilitating disease. Like my husband went into the military and I went into a deep depression because if I'm so lovable, why did you marry me and then leave? Well, I reframed that story. My husband loves me so much, just like JD loved his family so much, that he's willing to go fight and die to provide for his family. Yeah. Like those shifts in those stories, like which story do you want to pick? Do you want to pick the story where, your husband doesn't love you, so he leaves you to go do his job? Like that was the story I picked for a long time. So how to reframe those stories that you have, you just sharing, JD, with what you've been through. It's like, oh my gosh, I can relate. You're like, I'm not proud of this. I'm like, thank you so much for sharing that with me, because now I feel like I'm not, like, I feel normal.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well,
and
it's
with
like-
Al, with sharing about his anger, it's like, okay, we're not perfect, but we're still working and growing and healing.
Well, when you bring that up, you bring a good point, these obstacles that are thrown at us. And I'm a true believer that everything in life happens for a reason. Like, people come here in our lives, and this is, again, using a lot of traction. Al, I don't think for a second that we wouldn't be here if I would have never attended that event and walked up and said, hey,
No,
we wouldn't be where we're at.
no, we wouldn't be.
And it could have been a split-second decision to make it, so I didn't do that. You know what I mean? Like, those choices. Again, Nicole, the fact that Lori's not here, and, again, grateful that, again, for everything that she has done, but I wouldn't be here having this opportunity. But those obstacles, like you said, I feel like there's times I don't feel like he gives us things that we can't overcome, because it's just that right there, what you said, is now you have a story, you have a way to be able to hopefully share it with somebody else that's going through the similar situation, because they've been trying to handle it a certain way, and now they're like, oh, well, maybe if I try it Nicole's way, maybe this will work, or if I try it Al's way, maybe that'll work, or maybe if I try it JD's way, that'll work,
Yeah, because there's many different ways of coming out of where you're at. So
Right.
Let's just take a really quick break right now. Guys, stay tuned. We're going to be right back, because this conversation's gone to some amazing places, and I know there's some great stuff that we still got to share. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
How do you start your morning? Start it with a cup of High Point coffee. Because no matter where you go or what you do, it's always better with coffee. High Point Coffee. What's your high point? Located on the corner of 7800 South and Redwood Road in West Jordan. And a special thanks goes out to our partners in Oxford, Mississippi.
This is Gregory, owner of Lift Up Concrete, proudly serving the Wasatch Front for the last 12 years, lifting sunken flatwork for both residential and commercial applications. Only fully trained professionals lifting concrete at your residence with the same quality of material and method used at every commercial job we ever do. Don't replace it, lift it. liftupconcrete.net, 801-792-4535. Contact us at liftupconcrete.net, or if you're looking for a complimentary quote, 801-792-4535. Again, 801-792-4535. Again, this is Gregory, Lift Up Concrete Lifting.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Hey, welcome back to the other side of addiction. Man, what a first half of a wonderful show, man. This is some great information that was shared. Hey, I want to take some time right now to thank our sponsors. Definitely High Point Coffee in West Jordan off 7800 South in Redwood. Those guys are incredible. They make a great cup of joe and chai. That's my favorite over there is chai. And all the girls, once you go in there a couple times and they get to know your name, if they know what you're going to drink, they'll have your drink ready by the time you get up to the counter. They are just great people over there. I also want to say thank you to our good friends, Gregory and Tosh Carlisle, the owners of Lift Up Concrete out of Kaysville. You guys got sunken or settled concrete, definitely give these guys a call. And also Serve Pro West Jordan, but we want to say thank you to all the Serve Pros from Ogden all the way down to St. George. Thank you so much for believing in us and for your support. And we've got a couple other sponsors, but we'll mention those here at the end of the show. And we just brought on a new one, too. We just brought on another one, which we are very grateful for. So, guys, like I was saying, the first part of the show was just phenomenal. Great information. So, everything that you have gone through, Nicole, really, you're talking about giant in the smalls. I mean, you have gone from this small woman basically just not believing in herself and just letting these guys kind of take control of your life while you were trying to do everything for their life but not yours, to now being very codependent, right? And just, I mean, you've stepped it up a bunch, because I've heard some of your story on some other programs that you've been a part of, and girl, you're in a, I want to say phenomenal, but my wife's listened to the podcast. She goes, you are using that word a lot.
I like that word.
I think it's great. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You are a phenomenal woman, and where you have really stepped things up to where I know for other women who are listening to this podcast, they could learn a lot from you. And so just kind of share now where your life, and by stepping away from what you thought you had to do before to where you're finally saying, hey, this is me, where has that life taken you? Because you're in a better spot now, right?
Yeah, it's still a battle. It still has been a battle. Like my husband, I saved $6,000. I followed him to Korea. We were stationed at the DMZ. We lived on the DMZ. They didn't have post-housing there. They didn't have hospitals there. I saved $6,000 and went without permission from the government.
Oh.
And we ended up getting command sponsored and staying there a year, but it was like saving that $6,000. When I met my husband, like he wasn't working. I found a job really quick so I could get my kids back and get my apartment. By the end of summer, I had my own apartment. I had a really good job with benefits, and I had my kids home.
Wow.
My brother was going through a divorce. He was living with me. My husband was living with me, and I was financially providing for all of us. So it was like I went from feeling dependent to being completely independent. And then I went with my husband to Korea, and then we had our son, and I became like a stay-at-home mom. Very isolated, didn't go out a lot. I kind of fell into a deep depression. The story that I had about my husband not loving me, that's why he left me after, we got married, and now we're living in different countries. And when we came back to Utah, we lived in El Paso for a year. When we came back to Utah, I was able to get another job to be able to contribute to the household. But I still had toxic behaviors. I was working a ton. I was a mom, and I did not take care of myself. Like, I know that we met through Herbalife, and that was like my dream to be a coach. And I was pretty good at it at the beginning, but it was like so much fear of what other people thought, having to look a certain way, having to act a certain way, not being authentically myself. I was doing so much. I pulled back from that because I was going for custody of my children. full custody, some things that happened with the father of my children, and he took them one day and did not bring them home. And I was trying to, it was when I found out that he relapsed. So I'm trying to find out how to get my kids back. I'm like, okay, so I know that you relapsed and that's why you're trying to cause all this drama. Let's go talk to a therapist. We'll tell him that you relapsed, and, you know, we'll go from there. Because he had always threatened to take my kids from me. And the funny thing is, even with him being an addict, I never threatened to take my kids away from him, because I felt like my children really needed a father. They really needed him in their lives. I wanted us all to be like a big happy family. Yeah. And so when he took them, he would always threaten to take them from me. So I was like, okay, let's go to court. Let's go. Like, I'm ready. Let's go. He had a warrant out for his arrest. I went and talked to an attorney. She said, don't retain me. He's got a warrant out for his arrest. He's not going to show up to court. I went to a therapist, Val Hale. She's amazing. She wrote everything for me so that my emotions weren't in it when I went before the judge. Didn't retain the attorney. Went to court myself. Got custody of my children. He got supervised visitation only. It was one of the most empowering things I've ever done in my life. I was scared shitless.
I bet.
I was sitting in that courtroom, and he is always like, wears the Boston cap. He looks like, yeah, I won't say what he looks like. He looks like a singer from a band from a long time ago.
Okay.
And I just, like, this guy walked in wearing the ball cap, and I was like, oh my God, like, he's here.
Like intimidation,
like,
almost, yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't him. It was just a guy that was there dressed like the same way. But it was like, at that point, it was like I believed for a long time, I'm not perfect. I made a lot of mistakes. I contributed a lot of ways to the abuse and the toxicity of the relationship. I was a huge part of that. It was both of us, 50-50. It wasn't just him. Yeah. And I knew that, and I totally believed that I did not deserve my kids. I wasn't worthy. Like, I have made so many mistakes. Why would a judge give me my kids? Here I am, not going to jail, not going to the psychiatric ward, not going to rehab. And I just was like, they're going to see me, and they're going to see the mistakes that I've made, and they're not going to give me my kids. Not saying that I was an addict or any of that stuff. It was just things that, like, I don't even know. Just like the psychological warfare when someone's like, oh, but you do this or you do that. And it was one of the most empowering moments of my life to be like, I am a good person. I do deserve my kids. The judge did give me full custody. Like, he did get supervised visitation. And yeah, it's still a battle. Like, if it wasn't, like, for me, sorry, I know that we talk about addictions. I feel like work for me was an addiction, and so a way for me to escape. And I got to the point that I was sick. I had a mini stroke at work. I was running a team, and then I got pancreatitis. And I realized my lifestyle and my chronic stress is killing me. Like, working so much, running kids around, not asking for help. And then I did Health Coach Institute, and I realized, like, my lifestyle, I eat healthy, I exercise, but my stress is literally killing me. What are my priorities? What does it take for Nicole to be happy? Is it working this corporate job that I absolutely hate? And I was really good at it. I was really good. Like, my team had the highest engagement for the section that we were in out of the entire company. Like, we were in the top 25%. So my employees are happy, they're engaged, I'm good at my job, we're hitting all our KPIs. I worked as a call center supervisor, and I was just completely miserable, like, focused on the wrong things, like not putting myself as a priority, not putting myself on the list. I really think that self-care is so important, and, like, giving as a healer, like, giving yourself to so many people. And I had a shaman tell me, he's like, if you can't help people if you are in this state of stress and chronic sickness, because you're giving so much of yourself to everyone else. Yeah. So I think a lot of being where I am today is, like, putting myself on the list, and that it's okay that I'm on the top of the list, because my kids I'm not being a good wife to my husband. I'm not being a good mother to my children. I'm not being a good contributing member of society if they're getting a B version of who I am. I'm worth working, like, on personal development, or I'm worth being able to come and sit at a podcast and share, like, feeling like I'm safe here, that I deserve to be here, that my story is worth telling. I think that a lot of women, especially, we have like this idea that we have to be super mom, we have to look a certain way, our house has to be a certain way, we have to do all these things, and like finding the power to be able to say no. Like, you know, I was working and they want me to be the football team mom, and I was like, the old Nicole would have been like, oh, of course, like, I'm so stressed I have no time. But I wouldn't have said that. I would have been like, of course I'll do it, and then killed myself to do it. And I was like, nope, no. And I don't give a shit if you guys think I'm a terrible person. Like, I just don't care. Like, this is not what's best for me. It's not what's best for my family. I'm not going to kill myself because of how other people, how I think other people are going to look at me.
You know, and that is so big of you, or we'll say giant, since we've mentioned giant so much. That is so giant of you, because a lot of people won't do that because of that fear of the judgment and things like that. Because, I mean, really, you do have to take care of yourself. Because if you're taking care of yourself, you are helping that other person. It's just it's in a different way, you know. And so my daughter's husband went to law school, and he put in for this job in Arizona, and there were like 100 candidates for it. He got picked all the way down to the last 50, then he got picked all the way down to the last 25, then he got picked down to the last 10, then he got picked down to the last 5. They kept flying him back there for interviews. The kid hasn't even gotten out of school yet, and they offered him a phenomenal job making pretty much 6 figures. But they told him, they said, be prepared to work a lot of hours. And it could be 50 to 60 hours a week. And this is what my daughter told me. She says, he said, when does that leave time for my family? He says, well, not very much, but if you're going to work here at this law firm, this is what we expect you to put in. And of course, I was praying that he wasn't going to get the job, which is bad to say, but I didn't want my grandkids to leave, you know, because I'm so close to them here. But he went home, talked to my daughter about it, and he's like, you know, the money's phenomenal, but what is that going to do to our family? And he chose not to pick that job. And I was so proud of that kid. That now, if I was in his shoes back at that time at my age, I probably would have jumped all over it. It took me a long time to realize that the family and me and that comes first, but I was so proud of that kid that he chose not to do that for the money, because his wife and his kids meant more. You know, and so many, I mean, I know people who still work out at the plant where I used to work at, and the few that I've ran into or spoken to, they're flipping miserable out there, but they won't leave. And it's because they've been there too long and they're making decent money, but yet they will walk in every single day and punch that clock and be totally miserable. Why do we do that to ourselves? I mean, why? Because we do deserve better. We've talked about it, and JD brought it up. God wants us here to thrive and be successful, but be happy.
Well, it's just like
You
that.
know?
I mean, the society, again, it's one of those things of way people are programmed. I think that's where things, like, I've always been different that way personally. Like, I've never belonged to a group of people. I've never been a follower. I've never had, I got to be like this kid, you know? Like, I didn't care. Like, I never liked it. I was friends with everybody, the jocks, the geeks, the,
Stoners.
Spanish, the stoners, all of them. I mean, my best friend from Venezuela in high school, that's when we became best friends. We're still really good friends today, but I mean, he could barely speak English, and he helped me pass math while I helped him pass small engines. Like, I was like, oh, sweet, And he's like, dude, you speak English? I was like, no, I'm from Spanish Fork. We speak Hick. Like, it's totally different, all right? Like, yeah.
It's redneck.
Yeah. So he'd revise all of our books and our stories and stuff. He's like, does this look good? I'm like, as long as it passes, I'm cool with it. You know what I mean? So, but same thing. But I wanted to ask a question really quick, going back to what you were saying, because obviously you do your coaching and helping people. But the steps that you went through, I wanted to bring it back to the chronic stress. And the reason why I'm asking in that is because I feel like I carry a lot personally. You know, I'm still trying to work. I'm not perfect by no means, and trying to get, trying to do good things. We got big goals, big dreams, aspirations, but a lot of stress. And I mean, mine I can pinpoint is usually financially, but obviously the other things that happen within the family relationship compound on it. And what steps do you teach, or were you taught to be able to handle that and to decompress that so you're not as overwhelmed?
Yeah, I teach a lot of breathing. So I teach the 5-5-7 breath to my clients. That literally tricks your body. If your body is breathing like a relaxed person, then it tricks your brain into believing that you're relaxed.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to get together later. So, I thought breathing was just breathing, I know it's going in, going out, whether it's fast, hard, slow, stops.
Yeah, so when you're having stress, your body can't tell the difference from being like having a lion or a bear chase you in the wild way back when. Like, your body sees your boss or your financial stress as that lion coming after you. So your body is going to send blood to your extremities to fight or flight, instead of having that blood in your digestive system to be able to like rest and digest. So breathing is huge into that. You're breathing shallow in this area in your chest instead of down into your belly. So breathing is huge, especially before you eat. I work with people that are super busy, super stressed. They have jobs where they don't have a lot of time to sit down and eat. I teach a 20-minute meal where you're actually savoring and enjoying and being mindful of what it is that you're eating. And before you have that meal, sitting down and calming yourself just with breathing. If you only have 3 minutes to eat, most people, like, I know earlier when we were eating, it's like, usually most people, it's like 3 bites or 3 chews and swallow. Yeah. And so your mouth doesn't have the time to get the saliva going and looking at it and like realizing that you've even eaten. So slowing down, being able to slow down and being able to breathe before you eat helps a ton with overall wellness. Making sure that you're getting enough sleep. No screens, like an hour before bed, no screens, and getting that sleep and rest that you need. I'm a huge fan of Elon Musk, and when I work with people and they're like, I just don't have time to sleep, he has worked out for him to be more productive, he has to have at least 6 hours of sleep. If he doesn't, production goes down. So if he gets 2 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep, his production suffers. So resting, I think in this culture, we're so into go all the time, grinding. It's really detrimental to our mental and physical health. Being able to slow down and have on your calendar nothing to do. Schedule out time. Like, this is JD's time, and he's just going to sit and watch Netflix or veg out or do whatever it is that you do. No guilt associated with it. Finding the power to say no to things. Financially, like with kids, I've got 4 kids as well. Being able to say no to things. Or being able to say, like, how can we create this, instead of having it be like a stress, like, oh, you want this, like, no problem, how can we get in creation mode, so that you're getting that support, and then they're learning powerfully how to manifest and about abundance. Exercise. This girl goes to the gym to figure her shit out, so it's like, I love lifting heavy stuff and the mindset of like, I can do hard things. So making the time for you to find whatever it is that you like. If it's some movement, I have some girls that hate exercise, so what kind of movement do you like? Dance party with your 3-year-old works for me. Moving and being able to get that stress out of your body, releasing those emotions. Crying, shaking. It's a natural response from animals in the wild when they're being chased. After they've outran a predator, they will sit and shake to get that energy out. And so I know we talked about crying and releasing. That can help with stress. Taking salt baths, 21-minute salt bath, just relaxing. There's so many There's so many things.
There really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, I would love to really get with you one of these days.
Yeah, and I always do complimentary coaching sessions, so to support people with whatever it is that they're working through. I usually work with people with health and wellness, weight loss, things like that, but also, I mean, a lot of my clients are also people that are struggling in their relationships or with toxic, abusive people and being able to get out of it. So I'm here to serve. So
Let's take another quick break, and then when we come back, Nicole, let's share your information. So for anybody that's out there that would love to contact you, for some help. So
And however you'd like to do that, whether it be just like we did with Tiffany, you can just share your Facebook stuff if you want to give your number out.
It's whatever you're comfortable with doing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Tamara K. Anderson, and I want to share something special with you. When our son Nathan was diagnosed with autism, I felt like the life we had expected for him was ripped away, and with it, my own heart shattered as well. It's very common for families to feel anger, pain, confusion, and anxiety when a child is diagnosed. This is where my book, Normal for Me, comes into play. It shares my story of learning to replace my pain with acceptance, peace, joy, and hope. Normal for Me has helped change many lives, and I'd like to give this book to as many families as possible. We've put together something I think is really special. My friends and listeners can order copies of my book at a significantly discounted price, and we will send them to families who have just had a child diagnosed with autism or another special needs diagnosis. We will put your name inside the cover so they will know someone out there loves them and wants to help. I will also sign each copy. You can order as little as one or as many as hundreds to be shared with others. So go to my website, tamarakanderson.com, and visit the store section for more information and to place your order. You can bless the lives of many families by sending them hope, love, and peace. Check it out today at tamarakanderson.com and help me spread hope to the world.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the other side of addiction. Going to take some time to thank a few more of our sponsors. We have Troy Hoddle from I Am Power Ninja Real Estate. Troy, thank you so much for helping us, for believing in our cause and what we do here. We also have my good friend TJ McClelland with Fitness Realty. Thank you so much for your support. And we have somebody new that just came in who I want to give a huge thank you to, and we have USARA, Utah Support Advocates. They also run a program called Craft Family Support Group. We've had a couple people on the show. Darlene was on our show quite a few months ago that talked about the family support group. Guys, if you have a loved one that is battling addiction and you're having a hard time going through things, which we all do because their addiction, as JD says, we get addicted to their addiction, which I'm guilty of that. But their family support group, guys, is phenomenal. I mean, I've used that word again, phenomenal. My wife's going to say, see, I told you use it a lot. But it really is. It's a great, great program. And USARA is a really good place to go. Matter of fact, we are very grateful. They invited us to Sober Days on September 11th. So if you guys get a chance, come out and check us out. It's going to be from 2 to 8 p.m. We're going to be out there with a booth, and we're going to have our equipment out there. So if anybody wants to come out and share, we'll be there for you to share your story. All right, guys. Again, Nicole, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the information that you shared with us. Your journey that you've been through. I mean, you've been through a lot, and I know you said you're still working on things, but all of us are still working on things. I still work on things every single day of my life to get myself to a next level, and I don't ever really think there is a top. I mean, we're always going to continue to be striving. Somebody that's been going through some things that you have gone through, or maybe not just something else. You have the means, you've been there, you've dealt with it, you know things that can help. So if somebody would love to reach out to you and say, Nicole, I'm struggling, how could they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so a couple different ways.
Okay.
You can find me on Instagram at Purple Door Coaching. You can find me on Facebook at Purple Door Coaching. There's a page and also a group. Nicole, so it's Purple Door Coaching on Facebook. You can find me in A Tribe of Giants, which is a phenomenal Facebook group. With,
yes, it is.
Yes, that Al is a part of. And
I will second the motion.
Hopefully JD will come join us.
I'm on the thing on Facebook, but I'd love to be a part of the organization a lot more.
Yeah. You can also find me on Sunday mornings at Cat Country Radio doing Wake Up with Giants Radio. So.
Okay, now, question that I mentioned at the start. How did you get your name? I mean, because you even have some purple highlights in your hair.
Yeah.
And where was that connection?
Yeah, so I sat down with one of my mentors and business partners, Nicholas T. Smith, and I was throwing out ideas. And one of them was the purple door. And a purple door is the door to open-mindedness, intuition, and awakening of the subconscious. It often represents the homestead of a witch or a practitioner of magic who understands higher levels of consciousness and how to live a prosperous life beyond monetary gain. So yes, I am a Wiccan. I am a Wiccan and I am a witch. And so if you're pagan or you're a witch or you're a Wiccan, you would know that. But if you're not, you wouldn't know, I guess, unless you listen to this show.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've ever explained that to anyone besides Nick or Ryan. And I just want to say thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
For being a safe space to share my spirituality, and that's the name of my coaching business. So my purple door is always open.
I love it.
Purple's my favorite color. It really, you can ask my kids and stuff. Now it makes a lot of sense why I'm attracted to it.
Yeah.
Also, hence.
Yeah. Look what she brought. Yeah.
Purple.
Yeah.
And what do they call that again? I'm terrible when it comes to...
It's an orchid.
It's the orchid.
And
okay.
they can survive very harsh conditions, which is why I brought the orchid. They survive with very little water, very little light. They're very resilient.
Again, love my wife.
Resilience Talk Network.
Love my wife, but she would kill that thing quick.
Yeah.
Not a green thumb.
Oh, I like it. Nicole, again, thank you so much. We are very blessed and appreciative to have you here with us today. And again, for sharing your story, because it is hard. I mean, it really is for people to come out and talk about their journey that they've been on. Again, the fear of being judged or whatever. And this is just my belief. People don't have to agree with it, but those that come out and share, I think, are really some of the strongest people I have ever met, because they're not letting the fear of judgment affect who they are, and by sharing, they're helping hundreds, if not thousands, of people, because I guarantee there are other people out there right now that will listen to this show that are going through the same thing you've gone through, or have gotten through the same thing that you have gotten through, and maybe they've handled it in a different way to get them to where you're at. But unless we share, I mean, how can we help people? So.
And with that being said, again, Nicole, thank you so much for sharing your story and for being there for everybody. And again, this big movement that we're just wanting to reach out and be able to help others, and then to help Al out on his phenomenal content. Okay, so thank you so much for being remarkable, prominent, outstanding, resilient, noticeable. Thank you again for everything you do. So again, you've got a beautiful soul, and those that get to feel it and get to be touched by it are definitely blessed. So.
Yes, absolutely. And I will, that's another one I'll second the motion. And guys, get on this information that she shared on the Cat Radio, and get on Wake Up with Giants. Nicole, Nick, and Ryan, Melissa, everybody is, again, they're just incredible people, and the guests that they have on their show, I mean, I don't mind promoting them. Well, I've been on their show twice, which I'm very, very grateful for. But again, the people that they have on their show have gone through so much and have worked to come out on top. And now these people are sharing their story to help others do the same thing. So that's why you're doing what you're doing, is because of what you went through. Now, see, I'm going to get emotional. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing, is because of what my wife went through. And a lot of people have told me I was crazy because I stuck it out for as long as I have. But it's really helped me grow. And now all I want to do is to get this information out there to help and get others to grow and to become giants. And just, no, man, life is worth living. And yeah, just stick it out. So
something else with that. Just remember, everybody, you're not alone.
No.
You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to battle it alone, no matter what you're going through.
Yep.
So there's always people out there. Don't ever feel it's a sign of weakness. Put your hand out or reach out for a hand that's reaching out for you.
Yeah, and especially to you guys out there. All of us have been pretty much brought up to be tough, and showing tears is a sign of weakness. I tell you what, that's bullshit. You know, it's not a sign of weakness. We're letting our feelings out, and we deserve to let our feelings out, and don't ever be afraid of being judged, you know. So get out there, share your stories. Guys, thank you for staying tuned. And before we sign off, I want to say again, thank you to Brad with Resilience Talk Network. Without our sponsors and without Brad and without all you guys listening and helping this, I mean, this podcast is growing every single week. I am getting emotional again. I am still in shock of where this is going and the messages that I'm getting from individuals who are getting it. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your support. And we're going to end the show like I always do. Addiction is giving up everything for one thing. Recovery is giving up one thing for everything. Thank you.